Hi, welcome to Inside the Minds of Authors, the interview show dedicated to get us up close and personal on what drives authors, where they get their ideas from, and the things that keep them going. I'm DC Gomez, an indie author, and come and join me in these fun conversations.
Hello, listeners. I'm Morgan Fuller. I'm a poet and author native to Texarkana, and I'm going to share with you a poem out of my first book, Cries of a Warrior, titled Even So. Your word says, grief only lasts for the night. But how long is this night season? I'm ready for the joy that comes with the morning, a bit overwhelmed with sorrows like water, crashing over me like a wave, and I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Mouth to mouth, pumping my chest, willing my heart to beat and my lungs to breathe. O lifeguard of my life, I hold to truth. I trust you are good, and you tread upon the waves pulling me under. Though the hurricane rages, you hold me secure. Pour life into this frame. In weakness and in despair, I won't be left to drown. Lifted by your mighty hand, grief will pass. Then joy comes. In it all, I am never alone. If this night must last a while longer, even so, you are still good.
Hi everybody, welcome to Inside the Minds, and we have the fabulous Miss Morgan, and that reading should have given you some chills, by the way. Spoken word poets are bringing a whole new dimension to our life. Miss Morgan, welcome.
Yes. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here.
It's going to be so good.
So, how do we start? Because I have not heard spoken word. I have not been around poets in a while. So poets are authors and a combination of storytellers and magicians all at once. I don't know how else to describe it.
It can be like that. I like to describe us as word picture authors.
Ooh.
Poems create a word picture, whereas authors create a story.
I love it.
Yes.
Good definition. I'm still sticking with magicians, but that's just me.
You know, there might be a little bit of magic.
There has to be a whole bunch of magic in this. Tell me, what is the premise for this book? Give me a little bit of insight. Bring me into this story. Because now you have me hooked. I'm like, ooh, do tell.
Well, it's a good thing I left you a copy, right?
It's even better. I was like, ooh, no spoilers, guys, but I have my own copy and it's signed. So, tell me.
Okay, so this is Cries of a Warrior, and poetry has really always been my coping mechanism. I learned a new term for coping, though, and a better term for coping. Watched a YouTube video the last couple of days from Melissa Helser of Bethel, and that scripture, be still and know, still could actually be better translated to slacken or to give oneself slack. So poetry is how I lean into the Lord and give myself some slack for what I'm walking through.
I like that. Yes. That's a beautiful way of seeing it. It's like, let's slack, let's give yourself.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Give yourself some slack. So this book is basically my journey from salvation to where I'm at today and learning and stepping into the mantle of my calling as a warrior. I know my calling is to fight with my words. Our words are very powerful, and it's a tool God's given me to fight with.
You created this book how long ago? When did the book come out?
This book came out in 2018.
Okay, so
May
it's
2018.
It's
fairly new.
It's having a birthday.
It's having a birthday.
Happy early
Very
birthday.
soon.
We can celebrate.
Yes.
What inspired you to create it?
You know, my apostle is really good about pulling things out of you that you don't want to share. I had never really wanted to share my poetry, and he really didn't give me an option. He stuck a microphone in my hand and said, here.
Talk.
So,
I like it.
So
a little drastic.
But JoJo Dawson has never been one to worry about it being a bit dramatic or putting a demand on your calling. So he said, you're going to write a book. I mean, I hadn't written poetry since high school, and the poetry I wrote in high school was not appropriate for a church setting back before I met Jesus. So I was like, I don't think so. And here we are.
This might be a little X-rated for this population.
Right.
Okay.
It was not okay. I went through a season of depression and self-harm, and a lot of my poetry reflected it. It's always been a solace to me to be able to write in word pictures, but I never thought I could use it to glorify him.
That is a beautiful way to looking at it. Yeah. So how many poems are in this book?
This book has 32 poems in it.
Ooh.
Yes.
So they're quick, they're to the point, they're significant, they can hit you very hard, but hopefully very therapeutic.
Yes.
So tell me, when you started writing this, who did you have in mind?
You know, I never wrote it with the intention of publishing. Not a single one of them.
Okay, let's explore that. Who were you writing these poems for?
I was writing these to walk through healing myself.
Okay.
There is a poem in here called Broken Beauty. It's about my transition from being that girl living that promiscuous life who wasn't worthy. I sat in the back of the church I grew up in, believing I was condemned and I would never be able to live to the standard. And meeting Jesus, and now reaching back to those where I once stood, and being able to be that voice of, he calls you worthy, and that's what makes you worthy.
So let's explore this a little, because I know a lot of our listeners are probably either not within the faith or faith, which is whatever you believe, whatever you experience. I think it's a personal decision, and we all experience it, whether you're in nature, whether you're with your family. What is your belief? What are you calling? Because you talked a lot about him. Yeah. And you talk a lot about the apostle, and it's a very personal relationship.
Yes.
This is very one-on-one. We got names, and we're on first name basis. What is this journey? How did it get here?
Jesus Christ is my very best friend.
I have not heard that in a while, so tell me, what does that mean?
What that means to me is I had a personal encounter with him. I keep hitting the mic, I'm sorry, you guys. I had a personal encounter with him. I was in a place where I saw no worth within myself. I didn't feel like I was worthy. I was hurting myself because it was the only thing I could control. And I reached for my Bible, and the words leapt off the page, and I just began to weep. Jesus walked into my room. There's no other way to explain it. You know, like, he didn't physically walk into my room, but I felt the presence of God in my room and tell me, you're worthy because you're mine.
I like the whole translation and the visual and the effect of being very poet-like, of course. Yeah. So we're writing poems to glorify him.
Yes.
And touch other people. So you have 32 poems, by the way. Powerful.
Thanks.
So now, when did you decide, I'm going to publish this?
I told you that my apostle Jojo, he started putting a demand on that gift. And he just kept saying, I just see you writing books. Lots of books. I see them. And I'm like, I really don't see that, Joe, but okay.
We're not seeing the same thing.
I'm not seeing this. And then, which one was it that I wrote? A Call to Arms. I had written that because I just felt this heavy pressing of the church. It's time to stand up and fight against the darkness that we're seeing more and more every day in our world. And it was like I heard Holy Spirit ask me, how are you going to call the church to arms if you're never going to release this?
That is an impressive question.
Yeah, it kind of stepped on my toes a little. Kind of hurt my feelings.
Tends to humble you. Yeah. It's a humbling question.
It was a very humbling question. And I was like, okay, well, how am I going to do that? And immediately I remembered all the times, and let me tell you, there were a lot of times that Jojo Dawson looked at me and said, you're going to write books. So I was like, okay, I hear you. I'm tracking now.
It's all coming.
It's all coming together. And then it became, how am I going to publish?
That was my question. Yeah. How are you doing this? How is this process?
So,
what did you do?
So my process was, okay, which poems am I going to publish first? Which ones are actually going to go into this book? So I picked out the ones very carefully that I wanted. I wanted something raw and something real that anyone, no matter what walk of life they're in, could connect to. Because if you're going to go for it, you're going to have to go with what's real. Because your readers are going to know. Your readers are going to be able to tell what's real and what's not.
What's fluff? What is that thing you're just trying to sell me a piece of paper?
Right.
So how is the process of writing for you in terms of poetry? Where does it start?
Okay, so the process of writing for me typically is either going to be in a moment of overwhelm or in a moment of worship in the presence of God. There's several times we'll be in the middle of a worship service and I have to stop because the first stanza comes to me, or the first, or sometimes they're even in the middle of what becomes a poem. But I have to stop and I have to write it down.
So nobody's looking at you kind of funny when you pull up a piece of paper and start writing?
All the time.
Just making sure, because I'm I don't know how I feel if you just whooped up some piece of paper, like, hold that thought. I'll be right
on
back.
my phone. If I don't have paper, I'll whip out my phone.
Even worse.
They're like, why are you on your phone at church? What in the world? Of course, people are used to me at my church by now because
they understand.
They understand, and I'm also a little bit wild in worship.
What does that mean, wild in worship?
Okay, so
I come from a Catholic background. The most wild we do is kneel.
Okay,
and maybe stand again and kneel some more. What is this wild?
So I am what we call Baptist-costal. I was raised in a Baptist church. I have since had to throw off the Baptist because most Baptists would disown me.
We're crossing barriers now.
Yes, crossing barriers. I'm just being honest. They probably would because King David danced all the way back to the palace for the ark.
I am preparing myself.
Prepare yourself. Just get ready.
I'm trying to visualize this wow, churchgoer. And we're quoting David, who, by the way, danced naked.
Yes.
I'm glad that you did.
I don't dance naked. Okay. I promise. I've got all my clothes on. I wear plenty of layers.
You didn't mention that part. I was like,
when worship is going on, we have a very free atmosphere at Rural Church. So I dance. I may look like an ostrich trying to fly. But, I feel like Jesus created me to move my body. That's part of being healthy is movement.
Yes, it is.
Exercise. I am honoring God with my body in dance. Now, I'm not twerking, y'all. I promise I'm not twerking.
Thank you.
I ain't showing out. There is a limit. There's a respectful way to worship God while you dance. But you'll see me anywhere from spinning in circles, jumping up and down. I'll be on my face. And most of the time I end up back at my chair with a notepad or my phone writing some poetry. So
the members of your congregation have been with you for a while. Mm-hmm. This is not a surprise.
No. And I'm not the only one.
Okay, good.
It's fairly normal within, like I said, it's very free atmosphere there.
Just making sure people are not quoting you. Oh, there goes Morgan. We're just worship.
Well, sometimes they could probably be thinking, well, there's Morgan.
Are you traditionally published or an indie?
I'm an indie. I was self-published. I go through a couple that I love dearly. I would trust them with my children, let alone with my books, McFarlane Creative. And they are fantastic. They helped me with designing my cover. They made sure I not only had my ISBN, but my Library of Congress number to maintain all of my creative rights. They are basically a conduit for self-publishing.
So anybody that is looking to get started and doesn't even know where to go, you have a place that can guide you through that.
They are fantastic. If you had just your raw manuscript, they're awesome. Awesome.
That is a beautiful place. So who edits poetry? How does that work? Because I'm trying to visualize, if I wrote a poem, who do I send this to get edited? How does this work?
The fun thing about poetry is there's no one grammatical way it has to be done. Unless you were writing a particular type, like a haiku. It has to be done a certain way, correct?
Okay.
I am a freestyle poet.
This is a freestyle poet.
Freestyle poet there is no guidelines as far as your paragraph structure or your syllables per line.
Length or anything.
It's just free flowing. Similar to, the freestyle rappers. Poetry and freestyle are very similar. One has music and one doesn't.
And you can put music to anything.
Yes.
So it has that transition. So when you're looking at ideas, where do they come from?
I guess it all depends on what I'm actually going for. I've written very few that I sat down and said, I want to write a poem about this. I was asked by a very good friend of mine to write a poem for her wedding. She lost her sister when she was very young, and she wanted me to write a poem to honor her sister at her wedding. So I looked at pictures of their relationship and I listened to stories about their relationship from her and her mother and her dad, and I drew from that. And she had told me, another thing I drew from quite strongly was she wanted to release a lantern at her
beautiful.
wedding. So part of that poem was, we honor you with this lantern's glow. And I asked the Lord this morning to open the windows so you could see me. Along those lines, so very few things I've sat down and said, I'm going to write a poem about this. Most of the time, they just come from wherever I'm at.
It is an interesting and actually very different process
Yes.
than the rest of us, because I will have an outline and kind of work through it and what I want. Mm-hmm. This is definitely free flow.
Yes, poetry is definitely free flow. Definitely.
It's terrifying to some extent.
Yes.
How do you end it? Where does it end? Do you know that it's going to end?
Sometimes I just know, okay, this one's done. But it's not till I'm sitting and editing the poetry, like making sure this is how I want it in this book. Am I sure this one's done? Am I sure this one's done? And there's been a few times it wasn't really done, but I follow the piece.
It's a beautiful process.
Yes.
Because I'm going, how do you know? Because I'll just be editing and trying to add more to it. It's like, how does this happen? Where do we cut it off?
Yes. As a type 9, on the Enneagram, I don't know if anybody's familiar. I'm sure some of you are.
What's the type of 9?
A type 9 is called the peacemaker. We are very introspective. Everything can be our fault if we're not healthy people. We make everything feel like it's our fault.
That sounds a little narcissistic.
It can be.
Just making sure we're
It
like,
can
wait.
be. It's very self-condemning if we're not at a healthy state. But type 9s have a very special gift to be able to see everyone's side. Okay.
That's a different way of looking at the world.
A very empathetic.
Yes.
I'm a type 9 with a type 1 wing. Ones are perfectionists.
I was like, what is that?
So ones are perfectionists. So I have these poems that are very empathetic and people can connect to them because at some point or another, somebody's been in this situation and felt this way.
They felt the pain, they felt the love, they felt those emotions.
Right. But the one wing is going, it's not just right, it's going to hurt somebody's feelings.
Oh my God.
It's not just right, it's not done yet. And I've had to really practice reining that in.
Ooh.
And saying, okay, it's okay if not everybody connects with this. Because I'm not writing it for everybody, I'm writing it for a specific audience. And that audience will be reached. Mm-hmm. I have to give myself a pep talk very often when it comes to writing my books.
I've never heard that side of a pep talk. Usually most people laugh at me because I'm OCD and ADD, mm-hmm. so they're like, you're a perfectionist for short periods of time. I was like, never thought about it that way, but okay. Mm-hmm. But every writer has, I call them our own little demons.
Yes.
And we're always struggling and we're mm-hmm. always conquering. What do you do to get over those? The ones that say, you're not good enough. That might not work. Are you sure about that?
Well, to get over that, sometimes I sit and wallow for a while. Just going to be honest, I'll sit there and I'll look at it and I'll pick at it and I'll be like, this one's just going in the garbage. It's terrible. And sometimes I just have to walk away for a little bit. And I come back. And when I decide I'm coming back, I come back with two things in mind. It's, okay, why did I write this? Did this do a work in me?
Those are really impressive questions.
And if I have good answers to why did I write this? And did this do a work in me? It's valuable.
And you keep it.
And I keep it.
Good.
I almost always come back to it's valuable and I'll keep it. Because with poetry, it's an emotional writing. It's an emotional word picture. So, of course it did a work in me or it wouldn't have come out of me.
It wouldn't have affected you. It wouldn't
right.
have that transitioning process into you.
Yes.
That is probably a lot more exhausting than what I think of writing.
So exhausting. The actual writing process is not exhausting.
Good.
It's the qualifying it to put it in a book.
Ooh.
That's exhausting.
See, I have little friends, I have editors that actually help me narrow those ideas down.
It's harder to find editors for poetry who say this is crap.
Yes, like how do you know?
You just don't. Yeah, it's emotion.
You actually are probably following your intuition more than most writers do. You have to have that sense of this is going to connect. So your book's been out about 1.5 years, almost 2 right now. How does it connect it with people?
Man, I've had so many stories. I had one girl message me, and I had never met her. She was given a book by my grandmother's friend.
A friend of a friend.
A friend of a friend. And she messaged me and she said, I don't even remember which poem it was, but she said, I just need you to know that I am so thankful for your bravery in sharing where you've come from and what God's done in your life, because it encouraged me to reach back out and reconnect with God. And if I got that message, and if she was just the only one it reached, every bit of the perfectionism, of the self-condemnation and the self-doubt, and the, am I really going to do this? Is it really going to matter if I do this? Every bit of it was worth it.
One person.
One
That's
person.
all it takes.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. But, you know, people are just, they connect with one story or another. Like, I felt this way. I used to hurt myself too. I attempted suicide, and I came out, and I didn't know why. You know, I didn't know why God chose to save me. Well, you know, this poem reminded me that my life has value.
As meaning there's a purpose. There's a story greater than I am.
Yeah.
Now we're talking, you brought that piece of the young lady, which is perfect for the next question. What is your definition of success?
My definition of success. Whatever God asks of me, have I done it? I'm successful. Has it ministered to someone else and reminded them of their value? Then I'm successful.
Ooh. It's interesting when we ask, I've been asking the questions from different authors, and I ask usually of my friends, and everybody has a different meaning. And one of the things I realized, nobody has said having millions of dollars.
Right.
When you truly decide to go deep within yourself, people really had to think about it and realize, no, this is what success is. And it has a different layer. So yours has, your poems and your work is a ministry within itself, which I completely adore. So, best lessons that you have learned?
Best lessons I've learned. Give myself some grace.
How to explain that for me? What does that mean?
That is dealing with the voices saying you're not good enough, or you didn't get this one out enough. Because between my 2 books was a little over 1 year between both books being published. And it's real easy to sit in comparison and go, well, my friend has published 5 in a year. And what are you doing? Why are you being so lazy?
Have you noticed how those words always play in the back?
Yes, all the time.
There's always somebody ahead of the race.
Always.
And you're going, I guess I should have been doing that. I guess somebody reminded me, say, you're not competing with anybody else. You're in your own race.
Yeah.
And your situation is not the same as everybody else.
Right.
So how do you get over that? How did you get to that point to realize?
I realized that, you know, my writing is to a different audience. And I have to give myself some grace, because what I do as a poet is I create this word picture of an experience. And so with that experience comes emotional labor. And if I'm trying to pour from an empty cup, it's not going to be effective.
There's nothing to pour.
Right, there's nothing to pour. So I have to give myself grace enough to be able to pour out when it's necessary. And if that takes 1 year between books, I'm okay with that.
You're comfortable with the growth.
Comfortable with growth.
How much growth have you seen between books?
Oh, man. I've come into my voice, and I know that's a hard thing to describe. It's
it makes sense for another author, but tell me what it means to you.
For a long time, I was putting on this persona of a strong woman, like society says we have to be.
Nowadays, we're supposed to do it all.
We're supposed to do it all.
Yes.
We're supposed to be loud and in your face, and to heck with whoever doesn't think so.
But at the same time, sweet and submissive at the same time.
Yes. And there's a very fine line. In my second book, there is a poem, and there's 2 lines that stick out to me right now and just made me think of it because it's part of where I've grown to. You were created, as women, we're created to have a gentle and quiet spirit, but a bold and powerful voice.
Ooh.
The first person to carry the gospel was a woman. And society has tried to tell women, sit down, be quiet, wait your turn.
And it will be okay. We got you covered.
Yeah, we got you covered. You don't need to say anything. We've got you. But women and men were created to be allies in the kingdom. And we both have specific roles to play, and both our voices matter.
I'm all about the powerful message, but I love the fact that you said equal.
Yes.
Because lately what society has tried to do is become a very male-bashing society.
Yes, and that's not...
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help anything.
We have gone from one extreme to the other.
Yes.
From everything from in the movies, and you're going, that's not the real world. Where's the balance? Where's the real place where people come together? And it's a win-win for everybody.
Right.
That's where I'm at. I'm like, what happened to the win-win? Why is everybody fighting? Where do we get to this point?
Right. There's room for all of us.
Yes, there's room.
And there's room. And everybody's voice is valuable, or you wouldn't be on the earth.
Do you have a favorite book, or do you have a favorite author?
Oh, man. There's so many. It's so hard to pick a favorite.
I don't think I realized how complicated that question was until everybody blinked and looked at me like, really? I was like, that is true. We do read a lot.
I read so much. So my top in practical Christian living would be Terry Savelle Foy. She's awesome. My favorite book by her is Dream It, Pen It, Love It.
Why?
Because it's all about creating vision boards, creating vision, so you can practically move towards your goals and dreams. I love it. I love it.
I love practical books.
She's awesome. You will love her.
You're going to have to send me that. I was like, this is the one you need to look.
Yes. And so as far as leisure reading, oh, man. That would probably have to be Ali Condé or Suzanne Collins. Suzanne Collins, wrote the Hunger Games series. Ali Condé wrote the Matched series. It's they're both dystopian fiction. For some reason, I'm fascinated by dystopian fiction.
I hope you realize I'm not giving you a weird look because I'm confused. I'm just going, we got the Christian poet, and we're going to deal with end of the world. I was like, please explain this obsession, because I'm going, okay, you got my attention.
Yeah, I really think it's because end times that they tend to write about, we're steadily moving as a culture towards things like that. I really feel like we are. We're closer than we've ever been. And just to see people's ideas of what the end of the world will look like. Or the fall of our empire would look like. Because most of these are set to after the fall of the United States, which, honestly, I don't believe Jesus will tarry that long, but who knows? And I don't have to think about it. I can just read it and be entertained.
Thank you. Somebody said that to me that I love is, we used to be in a stage where reading became enjoyable and entertaining. Yeah. And lately, we have created some extremely deep and powerful books, but you have to seriously philosophize, and you have to seriously...
I don't want to do that. If I'm reading for leisure, I don't want to do that.
Thank you. I want to just be entertained.
Entertain me, please.
Take me to another world. Mm-hmm. Let's hang out there. Introduce me to some new friends.
Yes.
And life will be great.
Right. I love fantasy series. I grew up on Harry Potter. I was a Harry Potter kid. Rick Riordan,
which ones? Because I love them all.
All of them. All of them.
He does it so well.
He does it so well because he is a professor of those mythologies.
And it shows.
It shows. And he's an excellent, excellent storyteller. Because for a while, I don't have to think about what's going on around me.
I want to be entertained.
Yes.
I want you to create a universe that is still relatable, and yet it's not my house.
Right. It's not my house. I ain't got to worry about if the boat's sinking.
Thank you. It's not in my house, and we're going to go somewhere. And by the way, chapter 3, I can put you down and pick you up
whenever I feel like it.
And life will be great.
Yes.
So I am a true believer in entertaining, and I'm a believer in being a storyteller. But we all need these different layers of books in our lives. And for every single layers, you have amazing writers. But so Morgan, you have lots of stuff that you have in the works.
Yes.
Let's get to that.
Okay. All right. So I am currently working on 2 devotionals.
Ooh. Okay, so what is a devotional? Let's start with that part for our listeners who are not familiar or have heard the term and going, what is that supposed to be?
So a devotional is basically designed for those who want some guided study during their quiet time with the Lord. So I have 2 that I'm working on. One is female specific, called Dear Daughter, and it's letters from the Father speaking to the identity of his daughters. based out of Scripture. I pull certain scriptures, and I feel like the Lord leads me in writing a letter to what He wants to say out of that scripture to His daughters.
How do anybody takes that and works with it in their own lives? Are they going to read the passage? Do they have places so they can write their own stuff as well?
In Dear Daughter, no. That's like a daily love letter from God to them. In Wisdom Chasers, there will be an action page in between each one.
I love this.
Yes. So, Wisdom Chasers is a guided SOAP study. SOAP meaning scripture, observation, application, and prayer. So the first day will be the devotional. It'll be, what God revealed to me, my observation, and a prayer in that particular scripture. The second page, you'll have the same scripture. You'll read it again all on your own. What do you observe out of this? How does this apply into your life personally? And then a place to write your own prayer for that morning. So during your quiet time.
That's very similar to if most Catholics practice Lectio Divina. It is a reflection with the word kind of sense. Yes. So if anybody who's practicing that, they can do it. I've seen people do it with the word. I've seen actually people do it with religious objects.
Yes.
Or a picture.
I have seen that. Yes.
So I like the fact that they can see it, they can touch it, they can experience it, and then they can document it.
Right.
So it's different ways of like enhancing your brain and making this come into you.
Yes. Definitely a different way of absorbing and applying.
How long would it take somebody to do one of these?
It could take a minimum of 5 to 10 minutes, or you can make it last for 30 minutes to an hour. It's whatever you decide. It's very open to whatever you allot for.
You have going on, because I know you got plenty.
Oh gosh,
you have this look of like, yes. I tell you.
So I have a trilogy I've started, and it's a fiction trilogy.
Okay, how is the poet handling this?
It's very difficult.
Because you're walking into my room.
Yes. So I'm so used to just letting it flow, and I am working really hard not to plan it to death.
Is it an extreme?
A little bit. I'm in the middle of character development, and like I discussed before, I have this fascination with dystopian fiction. So it is a dystopian fiction.
Why not?
Right. Right. It's a work in progress right now. I'm just developing characters and navigating their voices in my head.
So, warning from the person who is on this side of the house: don't spend too much time creating characters.
Yes.
Start writing.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
I know. I have started the first chapter of the first point of view. I think why I'm navigating so slowly is because I really feel like I need to write it in tandem to keep, because I'm writing from 3 different point of views, the same story at the same time. Of the same story. So I've got the first chapter of each one done.
Because making it simple would have been way.
Oh yeah, no. I can't make anything simple.
Yeah, one point of view, one story, bam, done.
Yeah, no.
That would
no. I know my limits, and I would not be able to keep continuity throughout the story.
Okay.
So I have created a way to keep continuity, and if it takes me 3 years to do it, I'm okay with giving myself enough grace to get it done.
I love the fact that we're bringing it back. You're very comfortable in your space.
Yes.
And you're very comfortable in what you're working with.
Yes.
So I think sometimes we get lost trying to compete, like we said earlier, and trying to make everybody happy. Yeah. So as an empath / perfectionist, how do you work and not trying to make everybody happy? Because you got me there. I was like, how do you do that?
It's so hard. It really is. Like, I have to remind myself so much that I'm not called to make everybody happy. I'm not pizza. I'm not going to make everybody happy.
You're not Burger King. You're
not
Burger
King. I'm not going to do it everybody's way. And I have to make myself, and sometimes I'm just not, but I have to remind myself, you're not for everybody. It's kind of like in friendships. This is part of the growth process over the last 2 poetry books. I had to learn that I'm not called to run this race with everybody. There's going to be people who turn their back and leave because I'm just too much. I'm a lot. I'm more than a handful. I know.
Warning label?
Warning label. Fragile, not like a flower, like a bomb. That is absolutely who I am. And I have, over the last 3 years, grown comfortable with who I am.
You officially have a new warning label. I don't know if I need to plagiarize this, steal it. I hope it's not copyright.
I've got a t-shirt.
I need a t-shirt. I need to show up and tell people fragile, not like a flower,
like a bomb.
That is
just
going
so
to,
you know.
like, you got me thinking. I was like, that is perfect and beautiful.
It is. It is because, you know, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea.
No.
Some people don't even like tea, and that's okay.
You're not even in the playing house.
I'm not even in the playhouse. I'm all right. And I have learned on my journey of mental health and walking with the Lord, and I have to be comfortable in who I was created to be.
How many times we're not?
A lot.
I think it's hard, especially in this society that you have the Facebook and you have the Instagram and you have everything there.
Everybody's highlight reel.
And everybody's beautiful.
Yes.
I love the fact that it's for an empath to actually step back and say, I don't have to please you. Mm-hmm. That's huge.
It's a big deal. And it's a daily, the word says that his mercies are new every morning, and that's because we need them every day.
Oh yes, I have prayers
every day. Every day I have to remind myself, I'm not here to make you happy. I'm not here to make me happy. I'm here to bring glory to the Lord. And if that makes you unhappy, I'm going to be okay with that.
Being comfortable in you and being comfortable in not pleasing people is huge.
It's difficult. I do, one of my practical tips for anyone who struggles with this is...
Did you read my questions ahead of time? Because that's exactly where we're going, so tell me.
One of my practical tips, I have daily affirmations that I speak over myself because it is important to have a reminder. So right next to my vision board is my daily affirmations, and some of those are very practical. I remind myself that I'm a capable mother. I'm a capable wife. But I also have affirmations like, today I'm giving myself grace.
I love it.
Today I choose to be happy in who I was created to be. So I remind myself every morning and every evening before I go to bed by reading those things aloud over myself. Because it really helps me maintain that mindset of, I don't have to make everybody happy. I just have to live according to my calling.
Sometimes we'll want somebody else to preach those to us.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's nobody there.
We have to remember we're responsible for our own mindset.
Every once in a while, it's hard.
It's hard.
Because especially if the people in your life are not cheering for you as you think they should be, and then you have to cheer yourself.
Yeah.
Calling in the arts is a very sensitive one.
Yes.
And it's very easy sometimes to get lost. So it's
very
amazing.
Easy. Those daily habits of speaking it over yourself when nobody else is are a lifesaver for me. I created those habits.
I love it. I usually do the 4 agreements to myself. Like I have to say them every time I leave the house because obviously I take everything personal. Let's be honest about this.
Right.
And I do have to remind myself, don't make assumptions.
Don't make assumptions.
I can do that with strangers really well. The people in my inner circle. Why is it that I put them in like this little potter's wheel?
I so feel you. I so feel you. Okay, so this goes right into my last project I'm working on, and I'm almost done. I am writing a book called Hope Stored in Heaven. It's the testimony of hope and healing after a miscarriage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this is the most personal encounter with God I've ever had. And he spoke to me. The clearest I've ever heard him. I heard his voice audibly and was shaking on the floor. He told me, and I'll say it as he said it to me, your last experience as an expectant mother will not be lost.
That is something.
That's pretty powerful.
It is, because I'm getting chills. I'm like, how does that work?
And some people are thinking, okay, this girl's crazy because they don't believe the way I do. But I'm telling you, I experienced this encounter with Jesus, and I waited 6-7 years before I was pregnant again. My oldest is 9, and I have a 15-month-old. We had a miscarriage in between. And one thing I learned is I do not have to have anybody else's faith to believe my promise for myself.
That is powerful.
Right? So, our closest circle will, like in this particular instance, they're like, are you sure that's what he said? Because you've been waiting an awful long time for this promise you say you have. I just don't want you to get your hopes up for something that wasn't really him.
Why is it every time they're trying to protect us,
right,
is taking darts and stabbing our dreams?
Exactly. And it's all coming from a good place. They're
Yes.
all trying to protect you or encourage you or you know, or save you,
Yes.
or give you this criticism to help build you. But we take it like, well, don't you think I can hear God for myself? Don't you think I know my own dream?
How often do we let them in our heads?
Exactly.
Those are the scary ones.
Yes.
Because usually you want them to cheer, you want them to love you.
Yeah.
And the one phrase that at this point in time, every time somebody tells you, say, I'm just going to play devil's advocate. He doesn't need an advocate.
No. He can do it just fine all by himself.
Do not be an
He does not
advocate.
need your help.
At some point in time,
So
don't be advocating.
Yeah, don't
Let
be
it be.
advocating. Let it be. So, you know, it's all with good intentions, and I have to remind myself they have good intentions, but I don't need their faith to accomplish what I've got to do.
And it's not their dream.
And it's not their dream.
It is okay.
And it's okay. But those are the hardest ones to remind myself that they're coming from a good place, but I cannot internalize what they said. It will not be good for me.
Amen. The greatest questions, and you know, this goes perfect to, you know, aspiring authors. What do you tell them? How do you encourage them?
I keep going back to this. Give yourself grace.
Amen.
Give yourself grace. And you don't have to compete with any other author you know. Your writing is different. Your writing is yours. And know that you were created with a bold and powerful voice, and it matters. Write like it matters, and it will.
I love it. Most of the times we're thinking it has to be a certain way, it has to fit a certain genre, and it has to be a certain thing. Sometimes just write.
Just write. Find your voice.
Let those words come out because the word needs them.
Yeah.
So, are you ready for what's coming next?
I don't know.
This is the lightning
round. Oh.
So, stretch it out.
Do I need to do a dance party real quick? Shake
Put
it
it in
out.
your hand. Shake it out. Shake it out. We're going to get ready.
Let's go.
I usually have disclaimers with this part. And I'm pretty sure I need to send out a query to the listeners. Do you even like this? Do I need to cut this out? Because I think it's fun.
It's fun.
Most people are like,
We just need to have a little bit of fun.
yeah. They might be like, not as fun as you think, but it's okay. So, don't think too deep into this.
Okay.
Let's figure out what's really the first thing that comes into your mind, and we'll go from there. You ready to start?
Yes.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Okay, my kind of girl. Starting easy. Yes. Early bird or a night owl?
I'm definitely a night owl. I do not like waking up once I'm asleep.
Really?
Yes. I am the most productive at like 1 a.m.
Oh my God.
But that's only if I got to sleep till 11.
You're definitely a night owl.
But on a regular basis, like if I'm going to get up and function in the morning, I have to be in bed by 10.
Okay, you have a schedule.
So I have a schedule because I don't like getting up once I'm like asleep. If I get to sleep till 11 in the afternoon, I'm fine at 1 a.m. and I'm the most productive because nobody's awake to bother me. I'm a mom.
You said 1 a.m. I was like, I am completely useless at that time. I don't know what you're going to get, but it's not going to be productive.
It matters what time I got up, for sure. But if I had to choose, I'd rather stay up late than get up early.
Okay, night owl. We'll give you that. I don't know which category you will fall, or if this even will hit your bubble, but let's see. Sailor Moon or Power Rangers?
Oh man, that's so hard. I loved them both. Okay, little known fact, me and my cousin, male cousin, would go to the comic book store all the time. And there was this common misconception that he dragged me there. But it was the other way around.
I was like, here's a deep, dark secret, yes. Everybody.
Morgan is a nerd, and I'm totally okay with it.
Okay.
But if I had to choose between the two, are we talking like old school Power Rangers or like the new weird ones?
No, old school. Because we're going back to Sailor Moon. Come on now.
Dang. Probably Sailor Moon because I loved the fact that they had the two different lives and the neat little jewelry and everybody had their own color to wear and the neat hair. I mean, come on.
They were all fabulous.
They were fabulous.
And they could still be a superhero.
Yes. You can be fabulous and a superhero and the world needs a whole lot more of those. I'm just saying.
I think it's coming. Okay.
It's coming.
So, let's go back to the nerdy side.
Let's
see how nerdy we're getting here. Star Trek or Star Wars?
You're making these so hard.
That's the whole point.
Okay. I am definitely Star Wars, but I've also changed the call sign to my Alexa to computer, so it feels like I'm on Star Trek.
How does this work? What's going on?
It's so fun. But definitely Star Wars. I have a lot of Star Wars background, and I love it.
Okay. If your life had a theme song, what would it be?
Sing Like the Battle Is Over by Catherine Mullins.
Okay. Yes. Why?
This song is all about, I'm going to rejoice and I'm going to do my happy dance and I'm going to sing like this battle is over, because at some point it's going to be over, because I know who's already won the battle. And that one really pumps me up. I love that song. It's so good. Y'all go find that song because it's great.
You're ready to start dancing.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Like, I'm like, yes.
This is it. Okay. Let's try this one. I haven't tried this one before, I don't think. Let's see how this goes. What fruit will describe you?
Pineapple.
Pineapple.
Pineapple has that prickly exterior,
Uh-huh.
but it wears its crown so you know it's fabulous.
I love it. Okay.
I think that's pretty fitting,
That is
right?
actually extremely fitting. I was questioning that one, but I was like, oh my God, that is perfect.
And it's sweet on the inside because,
It's like Sour Patch.
Yeah.
I love it. You get a little bit of everything.
A little bit of all of it.
I'm going to look at pineapples
And
and
it's
think.
weird. It's weird. It's a weird fruit,
I'm going to look at them and think of you. And say, Morgan.
Yes.
From now on, pineapple is going to be Morgan. So, my lovely, fabulous friend, where can we find you?
You can find both of my books on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com.
Great.
You can find me on social media at Mogo Fuller on Instagram. I do have an author's page on Facebook, Morgan Fuller -author. I also have a YouTube channel that's just starting up. Yes, but it's not author related, you guys.
That's even better.
I'm a multi-layer person, because not only am I a nerd, but I'm like a 90-year-old woman.
This is such a contradiction. I'm like, what is
I
this?
am a walking eclectic mess.
Just tell us, what is this YouTube channel about?
It is all about knitting and yarn crafting.
I'm trying to visualize you with a poet's hat, midnight, reading a poem, then going home, I gotta knit.
I'm
just going, how did those transition? Like, do you have a rocking chair?
I do. I have a rocking chair, but it's not what I knit in. I sit I sit curled up on my couch watching old reruns of Warehouse 13 and knit.
You are officially have become, forget the pineapple, you're officially an onion. I got layers
So
upon
many
layers,
layers.
and I'm like, it's gonna take me a time to recompile this image of Morgan. I'm like, okay.
Yes.
I thought I knew, but I didn't.
Yeah, I know most people are like, I never would have thought.
I'm with them. I'm going, I think the YouTube channel just got me. I was like,
Yeah.
knitting.
Yes, knitting.
Granted, I want to learn how to knit, so I can't say much. So
I
I'm
can
like,
so help you. It's
Okay.
amazing. It's great. It's great.
let's not push the amazing part, because I don't
Yeah.
know. I tried. Baby steps.
Well, let me tell you. When I was learning to knit, it got thrown in the floor and left in timeout several times before I was
Okay.
really like, this is great.
Yes, because I'm like, we need to work on your definitions.
Although, if you're a cat person, I wouldn't suggest leaving it in the floor once you throw it in the floor. But throwing it in the floor, there's something cathartic about just throwing it down.
Just pick it up quickly.
Pick it up quickly if you're a cat person and have cats, because they will tangle it all up and it'll be that much worse.
Because I'm looking at mine. I'm like, oh yeah, he has a plot already.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listeners, we have had an amazing time with the fabulous Miss
So
Morgan.
much fun.
Learned so much in so many different layers. I was like, whoa, we just went there.
So went there and it was great. I enjoyed
awesome.
it.
Excited to have you. So hope everybody enjoyed the show as much as I did. Thank you for joining us inside the minds of authors. Every single time bring you something new and exciting to think about.